Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. Today, I have a very exciting guest. She's exciting for me, anyways. One of the things that motivated me for really everything that I'm doing is the fact that at one point I could barely walk down a flight of stairs. Not that long ago, my body was going through such a metamorphosis. I had back surgery thinking that I just had a back problem, um, which it was, believe me, or it was horrible. It was the one of the most painful things that I've ever endured, and I've been through a lot of pain. Um, and because that kind of pain doesn't go away. It continues and it affects everything you do. And if you had a career like I did, and you took care of yourself the way I did. At that time, I was going to the gym about 4 times a week, um, and I was healthy as I mean, I was in good shape. And then all of a sudden, after that, everything started to change. It got to a point where I could barely walk down a flight of stairs without being in tears. And I didn't know what was going on with my body. The doctors couldn't say anything. They just told me that, I was probably going to be with a cane. It was degenerative back disease. It's common, but in my case, my L3-4, the disc was protruded 2 centimeters, which is an awful lot. And they basically were telling me I couldn't do my job anymore, couldn't continue on with my career, which I loved. And I couldn't even, that was like losing a loved one itself. Um, and then I found out why. I found out that I had a bone disease and that what was happening was that my bones were uh, at night when I would go to sleep, they would go to work and they would try to fuse themselves together, causing massive amounts of pain in the soft tissue and all that stuff. So I learned about healing, and I learned about yoga, and I learned about meditation, and I learned about these things that I already knew about because of my path and my first spiritual awakening. And then I found out about that, and I realized there is nothing that we cannot heal, that we cannot heal ourselves from, that we cannot help others heal from as well. And it's not just through medication and tests and procedures and stuff like that that we can do this. We have a natural healing blueprint. And so, with that, I'm very excited to introduce to you. She was diagnosed in 2021 with an incurable, inoperable stage 4 metastatic brain cancer, also known as melanoma, given 6 months to live. Well, here we are 2 years later, and she's alive and she's got a book out, and she talks about a lot of the stuff that I just talked about, the meditation, the affirmations, all of that stuff. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring her on. Here she is, Kathy Mills. Let's see. Hopefully my computer is going to pull this off this time. Hey, there you are. Hi.
Hi, how are you, Wes?
Doing great. How are you?
Very
I
well,
just had to
very
turn
well.
off my
Thank you for
speaker. It
having
was
me on.
starting to, I didn't realize it was on. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Very well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me
Are you
here.
there?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, let me make sure that my speaker is correct. Okay, it is. I hear a little bit of an echo, so maybe if I move the mic away or something. So how are you? It's daylight over there, I see. It looks like.
It's 11:33 in the morning, Wes.
And a entirely different day as well. So I don't know if you
On
heard,
an
I
entirely different day,
introduced
yes.
you. I told people I told people a little bit about you, that you were diagnosed with an incurable, inoperable stage 4 brain cancer. I did not get into all of the other stuff. I mean, you've been through it: two brain bleeds, secondary to lungs, bowels, pelvis, hips, 15 clusters, 6 months to live. And within 6 months, you reached a technical remission, and with your body was actually fully clear within 8 to 9 months, and then growing actually brand new brain within 12 to 14 months. That is beautiful. I
Correct.
mean, I get goosebumps just
Correct.
saying that, because here you are, you're well past 6 months of that sentence. And I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, yeah, but she must have had like a will of steel or whatever. And, just go ahead. Let's tell us your story. Tell us how did you get there? How did you conquer the first part? Because I can't imagine.
The initial, yeah, the initial diagnosis, as I write in my book, was shocking, was absolutely shocking. It was the last thing in the world that I thought would be what was actually happening to me. Um, and, you
Mhm.
know, I don't think anybody that gets a cancer diagnosis is ever ready for those words. But the extremity of it and the fact that I was on my own in this little emergency bay bed in the hospital at 6:30 or 7 o'clock at night, and just having to deal with all of the emotions and all of the things was quite, yeah, it was shocking. It was shocking. It really hit me for six. Mm.
I can only imagine. I briefly described kind of my story, right? And that was just a bone disease, and it caused me like a lot of stuff, right? I can't even imagine sitting there and being told that. I mean, like everything just stopped, right?
Correct. Everything did just stop. My whole world
Yeah.
literally just self imploded in less than a minute. And, you know,
So
the way that it,
I think I lost you. Oh, I was going to say,
yeah, I just said the
so
way,
after that, I'll go. So after that, what did you tell yourself? Like, how long was the process of like, oh shit, right? And I'm sure there must have been like a lot of tears and heavy, heavy emotions and sadness and fear, and probably like I would have felt some anger and all of that stuff. How did you get to the part where you found the strength even to be like, you know what, screw this, I'm gonna start to do something different to try and heal myself? Like what was that process?
so that was literally the next day, Wes. So, yes, you are correct.
Mhm.
That night, literally, I don't know how many tears I cried, the shock, the grief, the stress. You know, obviously, solo parenting a little girl. My daughter was 7, maybe 8 at the time. And, you know, just the thought of leaving her without a mum, all of the things just flooded into my mind, as most people do. You know, there's a thousand questions going on. You can't make sense of it because it doesn't make sense. And so
Yeah.
literally went to bed that night. They gave me some sleeping tablets. It was about 1:32 a.m. when they finally, you know, had me go into the oncology ward. They found me a bed, put me in there. And then literally the next morning when I woke up, I I just had this feeling of, oh my goodness, you know, this can't be right. Any minute now, they're going to walk through the door. There's going to be a misdiagnosis. They got it all wrong. And when that
Yeah,
didn't happen,
the
I just,
balloons,
you know,
the
I just had to,
you're on candid camera.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. You know, like, sorry, we've made this horrible mistake. We've got your scans mixed up with somebody else. And of course, none of that happened. And I was left soaked in the reality of this is actually happening to me. And probably
So
because
they
of my background, yeah.
so they actually kept you in the hospital. That's how serious the diagnosis was at that time. Like they're like
Oh,
you
for
you
sure.
have
They were not
cancer, and
letting
by
me
the
go.
way, you're staying tonight. Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
1000%. I was in hospital for 5 days and they
Mhm.
redid all of the tests, all of the scans. Obviously, medications were coming out here, there, and everywhere, which my body was completely not used to at all. I mean, I live and breathe health and literally how I looked when they diagnosed me. Um,
Right.
so it was a complete shock to my body, my soul, my mind, everything.
Yeah. So prior to that, what was it when you talk about your background? What was your background prior to that? Have you always been like kind of a spiritual yogi, kind of into yoga and eating well and law of attraction and manifestation and stuff?
Pretty much, Wes. I think a lot of that started when I was in my early 20s. And as we know, it's just a
Mhm.
journey through life, right? So things will start to resonate more, and other things you might leave it alone. But health and wellness has literally been what I've lived and breathed for about 25 years. And so didn't
Mhm.
smoke, rarely drank, organic lifestyle, low, chemical, no chemicals in the house, just all of the things. So that made the diagnosis even more unbelievable because it wasn't like I was living a lifestyle that kind of helped create it in my body.
Right, right. Not out there being like Ozzy or like Mick Jagger, just
No, I did all that in my 20s,
having at
Wes.
it.
But that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it was the mental stress, right? So I talk about this in my book about what stress, long term mental stress, can do to a person's physical body over a long period of time. And that's precisely what happened.
It, and it does it quickly too. It can actually do, like
Oh,
in
for
my
sure.
case, like because even though I was like at that point when I had my thing, and it was nowhere in comparison, like there was never any point where they're like, oh, by the way, you got this long or anything like that. But that process of between being diagnosed and everything falling apart was devastating, you know, without any other support around. So I can only imagine, like in your case, you've got a little girl and you're there on your. So after they finally kicked you out of the hospital, was that when you finally said, you know what, uh, screw this, I'm doing everything that I've trained myself to do, and I'm licking this thing?
Yeah. That actually happened the next day, Wes. So after I realized that the doctors weren't going to come in and tell me it was not the real diagnosis, that it actually was really happening to me, I really just, it was like a sudden shift in mindset. And I thought, well, if God allowed it, God will heal it. So, whatever reason, whatever test this is, I don't know. At that stage, I was very unsure. But I just thought, if my body
Mhm.
created it, I can heal it. And if it's a test, then let's put my 25 years of health and wellness background to the test, basically. Let's see what I got. Let's see what I can do. Because nothing is impossible, right?
That's awesome.
Nothing's impossible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. Everything can be healed.
that's right.
Everything. I
Correct.
I remember
Everything.
when, yeah, there was a point. Yeah, yeah. And until people actually experience it, until they really don't know. But all we can do is say, look, man, you can do this, and I can help you get there.
Yes.
This is what I did.
Yes.
Let's go. But they still have to make the decision, and a lot of people, they just still don't do that, right?
Correct.
So
Correct. It
so
has to
now
be
on
a
to,
decision.
yeah. So you make the decision. It's the next day. You still got 4 days left. Did you, to the best, because I know that a lot of the cancer drugs, they actually, the body, it's designed to shut down the immune system, I believe, is it not? And then because it kills everything in the body, including the cancer,
Correct.
right? Because people who haven't been involved with cancer, they don't understand. And so did you immediately start your routine right then? Did they let you?
Well, at the start, Wes, it was my circumstances were a little bit different to probably most people's because those 15 clusters were behind my blood brain barrier. So they weren't tumors, they weren't growths, they weren't solid growths like most people
Mhm.
experience. And so to even get behind the blood brain barrier for those drugs to even start to work, I had to not take any greens or any antioxidants, no vitamin C's, everything that most people would start to do, I had to stop it because those drugs, to
Wow.
even get me to the radiation stage, they had to shrink those 15 clusters enough for me to even get to the radiation. And a lot of people don't even make that stage.
So
So,
explain what is the blood brain barrier? That was one of the questions actually I had written down because I have no idea about that. But what when I was reading the notes and stuff, what it reminded me of, for like, it was like Joe Dispenza giving a speech about when he healed his illness, right? And it's kind of what I use to heal mine, was learning about how everything works, right? Like, what is this disease doing? Where is it located? What does it look like? And how can I visualize the opposite, right? Is that kind of what the process
yeah.
you would use? And what is the blood brain barrier? How does that work? Can you
So,
explain that a little bit?
so yeah, for sure. So the blood-brain barrier, Wes, is a protective barrier between the skull and the actual brain itself. Right. So if you imagine,
Okay.
well, you guys are in the US. So let's imagine a gridiron player. So he's got his head is covered with his helmet. So imagine our head is the brain, and the gridiron helmet is the blood-brain barrier. So it's
Okay.
protecting you, and then you've got the skull, right? So it's protecting the brain itself from injury, from anything getting in there
Okay.
to, yeah, affect it. And
So
so
is it
with these clusters, yeah, you go.
go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, so with those clusters, they weren't actual masses like a tumor, like a growth. They were clusters of cells. So 15 of them. And I say to people, touch your head 15 times. That's what I was looking at. It was lit
Yeah.
up like a Christmas tree behind the blood brain barrier. So those initial drugs that I had to take were to reduce the size of those clusters so the radiation could actually work. Yeah.
And to do that, the medication had to actually break that barrier, get inside to even get there.
Correct.
And that in itself
Correct.
was
Yes.
okay. Okay. So,
Yes.
what were
Yes.
you
And so that was,
visualizing? Were you actually,
yeah. Yeah. So visual. So I was visualizing basically those clusters. I called them snowflakes in my book. I never referenced anything to do with cancer. I never spoke about cancer. I never said to people, I have cancer. It was always, I am healing from. These clusters, I called them snowflakes. I visualized them melting because we're in Queensland in Australia. It's hot. So,
yeah.
I did
Yeah.
everything in my little ways to visualize, right? Because that's the power of our
Yeah.
minds. We can do this 100%. And you're right, Joe Dispenza has proved this over and over and over again with his own brain scans of people that have gone through with him. Yes.
Yep. Yep. And I just like, it always amazes me that it amazes me. I expect it and I understand it, but I get so excited when I hear other people saying the same thing that I like, like for me, I just like would envision healthy, strong bones that weren't fusing together and there was no, it was kind of easy for me. But I really like how you went into the snowflake thing because you have to, part of everything that manifestation does and healing is to change our vibration and to change our whole emotional state and to like get to that place where we believe it, we become the vibration of the thing, and then we can call it in, right? And it's the same with
Correct.
health. And it's just amazing. So okay, so you got the snowflakes and your I love that. And
So,
when when like did it also, I would imagine you probably since you've been doing this for a while, you probably had a pretty decent support system, or did you have anybody around saying, oh, you're crazy, what are you talking about, or they didn't even know, huh?
well, that's right. So again, Wes, I kept my circle very small and tight because, as you know, the
Hmm.
power of words. How many, you don't want people out there saying, you have cancer, you have this bone disease, you have this and you have that.
Nope.
And then they go and tell five more people that Wes has this and Kathy has that. And then it just starts to snowball into
That's
this
right.
big, massive energy that is not what
Yeah.
we want. So, no, a lot of people never knew. It was only my very close friends and even my, we all live in different places. So I didn't even have family physically with me at all at the time, at all through
Hmm.
that whole journey, not once. Um, but because of my resilience and my strength, I've been a solo parent for quite some time. I already knew that my daughter was my why. She was my why. Every day I got up, she was the reason why I kept going. And there was always
Yeah.
going to be
See,
a
and
way. There was never a plan B.
that's awesome. I love how you went straight for it, the why. That is really what it's all about, is having that why that I have to do. That's where we find our whole purpose too. You know, once you can figure out your why, then man, look out, right? So, so
Correct.
how
Oh,
long
Wes,
now
absolutely.
did you ever even have, like, other than the diagnosis, did you ever have, either leading up to or even after, like, what were the bad parts and how did you deal with that stuff and keep your
So
positive, the
probably,
positive,
yeah. Well, I basically had to shut out the noise. I had to shut out what the oncologist was saying, what was printed on these medical notes, what other people were potentially, because they go into a state of fear, right? Friends, family as well, they're in a state of
yeah,
fear. And I'm like, listen,
immediately.
guys, I'm not in a, immediately, worst case scenario. And I'm like, listen, you know, the fact that I'm still living and breathing, that gives me another day. So let me say, when I have 24 hours, I'm going to be doing everything I can in that 24 hours, making the most of it. But yes, of course, I had my down days. Probably the worst parts for me, honestly, was the first round of radiation to my brain. Something I've never
Mhm.
obviously experienced ever in my life. I still have the head like a helmet. It was fitted so tight to my face. It was literally like second skin. There was like a bit, like a horse's bit that went into your mouth. You had to lay perfectly still. I have photos before they actually did it of all these laser lines, like when you play laser tag, or
Mhm.
how I could imagine them out when they're, in the, you know, in the field, basically practicing, army people practicing, all lined
Right.
up with precision. They had to go through my brain and literally target 15 different clusters without hitting parts of my brain that affected my eyes or my hearing, my taste, or all of those
Right.
things. And that was horrendous. That first session, I felt like I literally had an inferno inside of my head. That night, I did
Ugh,
not sleep. It was literally like my head internally was on fire, like an inferno. Yeah.
that's amazing. To
The
I
next two,
sometimes
because I was prepped. Yeah. Yeah.
go ahead. The
But the
next
next
two.
two were fine, Wes. The next two, because I knew then what to expect, I went in with a completely different attitude. I prepped myself beforehand. I knew what was coming. And so they went very, very well. And the last round, as I write in my book, the girls came in and said, "We never tell people this, but we absolutely nailed that." And that was what I've been praying for, was literally a sign to
That's
say,
awesome.
like, I never want to see
Yeah,
this room again, ever. So
yeah, yeah.
get it
You
right.
guys have been lovely, but see you later.
That's
Bye.
right.
Yeah.
See you later. Bye. I'm breaking up with
So
you.
that's awesome. So, so that's pretty amazing. You know, like so when you would prepare, like I would imagine just like how I would do with anything, you probably hit like your meditation and your affirmations, and I look at
Yeah.
your key players and your therapy, the therapies and the other things that work. And number three, the first three are like with everything, you know, um, creator, connection to source, universe, whatever you want to call it, God,
Absolutely.
mindset. Mindset is everything because we have to reprogram everything, all the crap we see on TV about this stuff, right? And it's about everything too.
Correct.
But if we can apply it
Correct.
and beat things like this, then we can do anything. And then words. This is something that I'm very, very uh, like. I call myself a recovering metalhead because at one point I realized that the lyrics in these songs that we're singing, they actually are mantras and affirmations, right? And if you're singing
Yes.
about
Right.
certain context, in the long run, you're actually manifesting that content into reality in society and into the world. And then the other
Correct.
thing that I
Yes.
mean really gets me is that you have gratitude on there. And gratitude has saved my life so many times. And now I'm actually part of a movement called the Daily Gratitude Movement, because I believe that I didn't start it, but I believe that the power of gratitude and love and those vibrations and our words and all of this stuff can do much more than like I want to manifest a Lamborghini, or I want to manifest a new house or the perfect relationship. I think that if we start to apply it in other ways, this stuff can do way more positive in the world.
Oh, absolutely, Wes. Everything starts with gratitude. The fact that I was
Yeah,
alive, still alive, right? You know, every single day I
I can
say to
imagine.
people, the first thing I say out of my mouth every morning is, "Thank you for waking me up. Thank you for my healing, and thank you for waking me up and giving me another day every day."
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So then take us through. Okay, so the third time they come back, they say we zapped it. How long? What's the time frame between day one and that day? Where was that at?
Uh, well, the radiation was every second day in 1 week. So I had it on the Monday, I had it on the Wednesday, and I had it on the Friday, and that was it. He just said, "Look, we've got one shot at this. We have to go in. You're fit,
Uh-huh.
you're healthy, you can handle this." Most people normally have
Thank
radiation like
God.
every couple of weeks, once, whatever it is. Yeah, but he just said, "Listen, we're going to smash it. You're not going to like it, but it's going to be in 1 week, 3 times. That's it." I just said, "Do it. Let's just do it." Yeah.
Yeah. So
I had a
you
day
got
off in
kind of
between.
blessed there too. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, Wes, different perspective, right? So my perspective on that was, I want it over. I just want it be doing radiation every 3 or 4 weeks for 6 months, or how a lot of other people,
Yeah.
they're spaced out. I just was like, listen, I'm being brought through this for a reason, just let's do it. And sometimes
Right.
I feel as though God, source creator, wanted me to experience what other people have to go through, because then you have empathy and compassion, as you know, then you understand,
Hey,
right?
that's right.
And I was
That's
laying
right.
there
We
going,
can.
imagine, yeah, and imagine a child or an elderly to do this. I'm fit and healthy and I know what's going on. But imagine these other
Yeah,
beautiful little souls in there all by themselves, probably frightened out of their minds. Yeah.
that's right. Do you, on that note, do you go into the cancer wards and kind of every once in a while, um, especially with the kids? Like, do you ever do any work like that? Do you ever go and say, hey, look, you can do this?
Well, I'd probably be kicked out of the hospital, Wes, with my way of thinking and treating things. But
Yeah, maybe.
I call it the medical establishment for a reason. But, look, I met some
Right.
beautiful people in there. But my biggest thing, I think, right now is speaking, because that reaches more people, especially. And obviously,
Yeah.
having written my book also shows people how it can be done. And obviously, this is my story, my experience. Not every experience is for every person. There's definitely multiple things in that book that anybody could do and get improvements in some way, shape, or form.
Right. I'm going to share the screen here right now. So the book is called Be What. Hold on. I had it memorized and now I don't have it memorized. Dang it. Let me pull it up. I've got a bazillion tabs here. Why am I not seeing it on here? It's going to be. No. Hold on a second. Here it is. Be your own miracle. There we go. Can you see? Is that up there? It should be up there now. So that
It's
is the
waiting to
book,
load.
Be Your Own Miracle. Probably it's. I keep getting a signal that you've got a bad internet signal there right now. So you wrote that,
Probably.
and when did it actually get published?
So it was
And
published, Wes,
I'll
on
be
the
posting
12th.
all the links. So
Okay. Yeah, so it was posted. I wrote that literally over the 12 months of my journey.
mhm.
And so it was published last year on the 12th of September, which was quite a prominent date, right? Because the 11th of September for you guys especially, I was like, please don't let it line
Yeah.
up with that one. But yeah, it was the day after.
Right.
Mm,
That's
right.
interesting. I find it interesting how certain things fall on certain dates. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Um, it's really interesting how that works and things repeat and have a sort of, I don't know, an energy about them, right?
Correct.
Okay, so
Correct.
that's really quick that you went. How far after you finished the chemo? Because you say that you were in a technical remission within 6 months. When did they finally say, you know what, you are in remission? We can't find a sign of this stuff. And then take us through the growing of an actual new brain. And then we'll get into the different therapies and the supplements and all that stuff.
Sure. Sure. So, so the chemo was the tablet, normal chemo that most people would do, right? Going in every, for a few hours. That none of that. I had none of that. Those chemo meds were purely to shrink those clusters in my brain, and so I haven't been on them for quite. I never did immunotherapy. I refused immunotherapy. I write about that in my book as well, because that's just you know, they like you in this little conveyor belt of, and that did not
Yep.
sit well with me. I obviously, with my background, I researched that. I said hell no to that. That caused a lot of medical gaslighting. A lot of
Yeah.
people in the medical industry not happy, Jan, right? That I'm not doing.
You
what
gotta
I'm
have your
supposed to be
flu. Yeah,
doing.
you gotta have your
Yeah,
flu shot. What do
yeah,
you mean? You can't like,
yeah. I
yeah,
gotta do. Oh, right.
yeah.
And so that in itself was a big, like it was risky, right? It was ballsy. That's what they said to me. Well, listen, you're playing with fire here. These are melanoma cells. This is serious. These things can multiply. They can just take over your entire body. And I was like, look, that's worst case scenario. I'm not aiming for that. I'm going for best case. And so, right? So I wrote my own diagnosis, Wes. On the back of their diagnosis, I wrote out my own script, and that's what I looked at.
Awesome.
I stuck that on my kitchen wall,
Awesome.
and that's what I looked at.
That's
Yeah,
yeah. That's like the power
yeah,
of script. So you literally did everything that we do with manifestation,
correct.
and you did
Correct.
it in such a massive way with such a massive, for most people,
Correct.
like they can't even wrap their head around stretching 6 months into a year, let alone
Correct.
not only stretching it, but smashing that and actually going into not only remission, but completely like negative. So, what is, I,
Correct.
this is something I would like to do just for myself is grow a new brain. how do you how do you how
I don't know if my IQ went up there, Wes.
that's all right, that's all right, as long as it's something new, I mean, hey. But that, and also I love that. See, one of the things that I teach people is how to customize and write their own affirmations about whatever they're doing, right?
Yes.
And it's something
Yes.
that people don't understand that they can do. Like maybe I'll listen to affirmations on some YouTube or some tape or podcast thing, but when you can customize your very own and you put some emotion in and behind it, man, you've got like, look out, right? I mean, there is nothing that you
Out.
cannot achieve.
True that. And in one of the chapters in my book, my mother actually sent me affirmations as well, and I used to put them on my bathroom mirror every morning, and I would read them out. But you are right. So I had my own affirmations, and I actually write my script. I write everything. The book is full disclosure on so many things, full conversations and everything. But I actually write what I wrote down and would read out the script every single
Mhm.
day. um, I am healthy, I'm fit, I'm fine, I'm healing, my body is strong, I'm walking and talking. I never had noise, I never got sick, none of the things that most cancer patients
That's awesome.
experience. I had 5 packets of drugs given to me that were side effect medications from the chemo meds, and I threw them under the bathroom cupboard, Wes, the first day that I got them,
Uh-huh.
and that's where they stayed. I never used them. I never
Nice.
had anything. I had side effects to those. I had skin issues and all of those things short term. Again, I spun that around and changed my diet, and again, everything just improved. So,
That
yeah,
is
it's right. The
awesome.
power of the
That
mind, the
is
power of the
that is
words.
powerful right there. For me, I still used a little bit of the, because it's an autoimmune. I haven't been able to get off one of my medications that I really want to. Um,
Yeah,
but to be able to do that, that is what tells me that I will, you know? So
correct.
then,
And when your body
so
is
when
ready,
you,
right? So when your body is ready.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it's really, for me, I think it's more like the mind being ready. You know, that's how I think. I think most people myself included, the thing that gets in the way is this. It's always that. So then, so you didn't take those medications. You immediately started some of these therapies, the supplements, and I also, there's a alkaline water filter system that I want so bad because it makes like I think 12 or 13 pH water, but it can also go like super
Wow.
acidic. This machine,
Wow.
and you can actually use it as a cleaning agent instead of detergent. And people don't realize that
Is
water
that the
has that much
Energix?
ability.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yes. Is
Yeah,
that the
I
Kangen or the
really
Energic?
not only
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's a few $1,000s, but like I would love to
Yeah.
be able to get one of those and start selling those because I know that when I started drinking super high alkaline water, even though it's a
Correct.
people think that it's going to make your body alkaline, but that's not really what it does. But it does kind of, it helps with inflammation. It helps with these things, right?
Correct. Correct. And it helps to flush the toxins out of your cells, right? So most bottled
Mhm.
water, well, I don't drink tap water at all. Neither does my daughter. I would never do that to her. Here, our water system is,
Mm-mm.
filled with chlorine and all cadmium and all kinds of things. But people don't realize our bodies are 70 to 80% water, and the brain
Yeah, they're
especially.
supposed to be 80.
So correct, correct, right. So the higher the pH level in our, you know, it's actually hydrating your cells. Normal bottled water, you may as well drink a can of Coke. Like most
Right,
of them.
right, right.
I can't say all because
Yeah.
I don't know
I
all
tell,
brands all over the
I,
world, but most. Yeah.
yeah, I tell people the same thing, unfortunately, about like those impossible burgers and stuff like that. It's like the GMOs and the patents that go into that,
Oh,
and you think that, oh, I'm being vegetarian and I'm saving an animal, but they don't realize that actually it's just as brutal on the animals because they have to eat that stuff too, and it's like this big, you know, and people don't get it. They don't get it
people
yet.
don't get it. No, not yet. But
Yep.
I think a lot of people, as you say, Wes, are waking up. And I think COVID
Yeah.
woke a lot of people up, whether they liked it or not.
Yep.
That was a definite
That's
catalyst
right.
in the world, which was needed, I feel,
It was very
unfortunately.
needed, and we're good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and like I see that the same way. Like my alarm clock went off probably in between 2013 and 2017, right? And I kind of knew that stuff was coming, right? And then right before COVID happened, I moved my family because I knew that something was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to be COVID necessarily. I had no idea. I just knew that we had better get out of the city and out of California and someplace different, right? And then we must have been out of LA for 3 weeks and COVID hit.
Wow.
And then I was like, yeah, that's what I said. I actually was like, wow. And then, um, and then, but that's when people started, when they couldn't go to work, they started getting into meditation. They started realizing, wait, why am I doing this crappy job? And yada, yada, yada. Um, Spiritual communities started to come around, all of that stuff. And then at the same time, though, do you notice, like, I don't know what it's like in Australia. I think it's kind of similar in a lot of ways because I see it like the United States has just puked its worst habits and thinking and tactics all over the rest of the world and caused like all kinds of nonsense. And I see like there's certain people that are more afraid because they see their whole belief system tumbling down. And then there's more of us that are sharing information like this and saying, you know what, this is how we do it. It's about vibration. It's about mindset. It's about what we ingest in our bodies, both what we read, we listen to, we watch, we talk. It's our words that we say. We speak things into existence. And if you can heal, if you can heal stage 4 cancer, if you can heal a bone disease, if you can manifest $1 million house, you can do anything. And it doesn't have to just be centered on the self, but it has to start on the self.
Yes, that's right. We are the change. That's right. We are the ones we've been waiting for.
Yeah.
Everything starts from within, as you know, Wes. Nothing changes until we
Yeah.
change. And then everything externally
That's right.
starts to change, because internally, that's right. We fix our vibration, we rise, we purge, we heal, we do all of those things, and then everything shifts energetically around us. So true.
So on your low days, okay, because we all have them, no matter what our journey is or where we're at in our healing. Because I think that we kind of are always going to heal something, right? I don't believe that, life is a journey. It's not a destiny, right? So there's always going to be, like in recovery, we talk about layers of the onion. So how would you? Because I would imagine you probably had some pretty low days, right? And how would you cope? Were you able to like kind of keep yourself detached as much as possible from getting tangled into the emotional, that spiral, you know what I mean? Where like
Yeah,
it's
vortex,
just
I call it.
overwhelming, it's depressing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
How,
And it
what
just
would
sucks
you
you in.
do? Would you just kind of, yeah, yeah. So like what I do is I kind of just have learned that it's okay to have a down day, but let's not engage in it too much. Just acknowledge it and get through it till tomorrow. And for me, that kind of works. But I can't imagine going through that kind of a heavy diagnosis. It's very different because I don't know how did you. So how did you deal with that?
Basically, everything that you just said, Wes, and as I say again, this is all written in a chapter in my book. So I call the chapter "The Middle Can Be
Okay.
Messy." Shit hitting the, you're never going to have
Yeah.
perfection. It's totally right. It's just
Yeah.
we are souls having a human experience, and exactly that. So as I wrote in my book, feel the emotion, but don't let it attach to you. Like you were just saying, where you get into that vortex of negativity, and instead of going up, you bring yourself down. We can
Right.
all have those moments, but we don't want to stay there. So we need to find things that will shift our perspective, shift our emotion, shift our feeling, shift our vibration. Songs, music was a big one for me. Podcasts, Steve
Mhm.
Harvey, Tony Robbins, he went through a tumor on,
Yeah.
had a brain tumor as well. So he healed himself from that as well. So
Oh, he did.
put me in that. He did. Yeah, there's quite a few people. You would be shocked at some people's history when you actually go back through and look at their childhoods or look at what they've been through. And also frequency
Right.
music, right? So we know the power of music. We know that most of our modern jacked to play at a different frequency to what it should be.
Yep.
But 432 hertz, 741, 417. I just say to people, they're all free. I had that pumping through my house,
Yeah.
to lift the
Yeah.
energy and the vibration, because it's all
That's
energy.
kind of
Yeah.
that's kind of the only music that I listen to these days. That and like Native
Yeah.
American tribal music. That's really, or
Yes.
like
Yeah.
I'll listen to other tribal music, but a lot of solfeggio frequency stuff is what I put on. or I'll put on
Yes.
some like subliminal affirmation stuff. But I've rarely ever listened to the kind of music I used to play and used to listen to. And I don't miss it at all. I don't miss it. I have no desire. It's almost like coming to a point where in my story, I realized that really wasn't who I was. That was who I became because of the conditioning of my childhood and early, teens. And had I been able to embrace who I truly am, I would have been completely different. But yeah, so
Correct.
that's
And
awesome.
it's all lessons in growth,
And
right? It's
then
all lessons in growth.
yeah, yeah. So now the doctors, when you start talking, okay, so let's go through some of these supplements. The Alka Power, is that like an additive to the water, or is that just super high alkaline like Kangen water or something?
Yeah, so Alka Power in Australia is a brand. I don't know what brands have bought it in.
Okay.
It's an actual brand, so it's high alkaline, high mineralized. It hasn't gone through any processes. It's extracted naturally and bottled from the source.
Nice.
It's one of the highest waters that you can purchase
Mhm.
untouched, as it hasn't had anything done to it, in a laboratory or
Okay.
a factory or
What is
anything like
the
that. It is pure. Yeah.
like the one that I'm
It's a nine
drinking
to
right now? Yeah.
yeah. So it's a 9 to 10,
No,
Wes. So it's high.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about like this one that I'm drinking right now is 9.5.
Yeah, awesome. And then I always
Yeah.
say too, then it has to be mineralized. And so because a lot of alkaline water doesn't have the mineral component, which is what our body also needs, because our soils have
Right.
been farmed, right? And that's with
That's
fulvicumic that you
yeah.
probably want to talk about. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's
Our body
exactly,
is
you know what?
depleted. Yes.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
exactly why I started that. Well, there's many reasons, but that is one of the reasons why I started my soil farm. Is like people don't realize
Yes.
that because of that system, the food that we're eating contains this
Yes.
crap, right? And it's
Crap.
depleted, and
Yes.
fertilization is only making more of the problem. And
Yeah.
man, and it really affects our environment. It affects our climate. It affects our water table. It affects
Water.
everything, and people
Correct.
don't realize it also affects our connection to planet, right? Because people don't realize, yeah, there's a reason why we happen to have 80% water. Our planet has 80% water. The
It's
the
water.
the
Correct.
land has so many trees. You have so much hair. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They don't understand that the planet has this much salt. You have that much salt also, and they don't understand that there's a
Correct.
connection and that wasn't an accident.
Correct. Correct. We're all, you know, we're all linked in some capacity. That's exactly right. Nothing
Yeah.
is by chance. Everything has a
No.
purpose. There is a reason for everything. Yeah.
So what is fulvic hummus, or how do you say that? And then what is
Fulvic. So
berber?
fulvic berberine. So obviously because of the diagnosis, right? As I said before, most people when they're diagnosed with cancer, they're dealing with, let's say, lung cancer, breast cancer, whatever it is. Usually they're
Mm,
tumors, they're solid growths, which are, it's a whole other story. But so all of those normal um, protocols that most people would go for, intravenous vitamin C and, high antioxidants and hyperbaric oxygen chamber therapies and all of those things, I could do none of those. So my
mm.
research took me on a whole other path because that's not what I was dealing with. I was dealing with something completely different. And so fulvicumic, as I write in my book, I think every man, woman, child, and pet should be having that daily. because that is essentially replacing what is being taken out of our farms, like out of our soils and our food sources. So most
Right.
people are depleted in essential minerals. And I come off a
Now
farm,
is
Wes, so that was one of the first things that I understood, right? Was
yeah.
because I've
Is that
seen my
something that we
dad
can?
back in the 70s. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you can buy it. You can buy
Is,
it. Absolutely. In fact, one of my supplements is Vital Earth, which is an American brand. So just on
okay. Yeah,
iHerb,
I've
I
seen
love
that. I've seen
iHerb.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's
So
quite a
when
few.
I post,
Yep,
yeah, when I post this, I'll put all that stuff in there. If you can send me the link
for
for
sure.
that brand and stuff, I can tag that so that people can get access, and then also obviously they'll be able to contact you. All that stuff will be in there too.
Yeah,
And so, what is
yeah. And
berberine?
obviously, I say to people, so berberine, another supplement, and it's essentially it was used to color different things in the past. So my poor little brain's going from one to the other. Um, but it's essentially like an alkaloid, and with cancers especially, it will literally stop the machinery process of the cancer cells actually forming. And it's used heavily for
Wow.
people that have diabetes, for example. Like, it's another form of metformin, but a natural version.
O-
And again, I always say to
Okay.
people, look, go to your specialist, do your own research. But this is just in a
Yeah.
nutshell. So it's been heavily used in Ayurvedic and Chinese medicines in the past. It has a bajillion different health benefits. If you Google benefits of berberine on YouTube, you will have people
You'll
like,
find it.
motivational doc and, some of the big key players talking about the benefits of berberine. And again, not every supplement will be for every person. If you're on certain medications, yes, there might be, implications of the two of them. So always check with your doctors, check with your pharmacists, check with people. But 99%
Hmm.
of what I've written about, literally, there's virtually no side effects, as in adverse side effects. There's only positive effects. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Berberine's probably the only one out of all of them that might cause you a bit of nausea or something like that. And that's only if you're on certain medications as well.
Uh huh.
And so I write about these very strategically in chapters in my book, without getting too scientific, going down those paths, but obviously backed up by
Sure.
research. But the fulvicumic, definitely, Wes, that is something, as I say, I've had people that have had nothing wrong with that purely from reading my book, and they've experienced so
Uh-huh.
many different health benefits. They've had inflammation in the body go down. Their children's behavior has shifted. And of course, obviously,
Wow.
there's dosages for children and pets, etc. But again,
Right.
fulvicumic was actually a fertilizer in the old days. You would
I-
actually fertilize your crops and help
Interesting.
them grow better. Yeah, so there's a whole history
Okay.
behind that in itself. I call it black magic
Uh huh.
in my book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely alchemy, right? So, and then you talk
Sure.
about inositol and IBG,
Inositol and IP6
IPG.
and IP6. IP6.
Oh,
Yeah.
IP6. Yeah, my handwriting.
IP6. That's okay. So these are all written in my book, Wes. And again, there were studies done on these with all different kinds of cancers. And again, not just for cancer, there's a multitude of health benefits from taking IP6 and inositol. And again, most of
Mhm.
my brands, because Australia is a little bit behind with these, most of my supplements come from the US. Not all of them, but a lot of them
Right.
come through iHerb, yeah, or Amazon.
Yeah.
Um, and
And then
yeah,
and then
essentially,
this obviously this. Oh, go ahead.
no, it's just, all of the research behind the different cancers that those two supplements, IP6 and inositol and berberine, will treat are incredible. right?
That's awesome.
So, and I'm always looking. I always
And
say to
people don't
look for. I
go
was
ahead.
just going to say, Wes, so always look for powders, liquids, or lotions, because or drops, because that uptake is going to go into your bloodstream and to the body parts that are needed very quickly. A lot of people taking vitamins and supplements. If your gut health isn't healthy, you will literally pass it out, because the gut is where
Right.
it all happens as well. So that's why I say look for supplements that are in powder form, liquid form, topical lotion or drops, because that will definitely go into the body. The uptake will be much faster. Yeah.
Right. Right. I have that problem because of digestion issues. And so I've always tried to find powders and tinctures and things like this because they work, right? They don't get digested
Correct.
out like, you know.
Correct.
And then, of course,
That's
the
exactly right.
CBD and THC. Now, did you use Rick Simpson oil, or did you just use like something that you would get at a dispensary, or what kind did you go about with that?
Great question, Wes. So, no, but obviously I didn't use Rick Simpson's protocol. I actually went through a pharmacy and I still get my CBD and THC oil from them. They're on the other side of Australia in Perth. I'm on the Gold Coast, so on the whole other coastline. But I had
Mhm.
such great reports from them, from other people who had gone through and had blood cancers, and other different types of cancers, and they had had amazing results. And so, of course, where my research was taking me, so my intuition was like, do that. And so I just get it sent
Yeah.
across to me. It gets scripted every 3 to 5 months. I'm not on it every single day now. Obviously, it might be every, 3 days, once a week. Just depends. Every so often, I'll do
Right.
a full run of it again, which I'll take nightly for a few weeks at a time. But again, Mother Nature's cures, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
So many
she
things.
has gotten, yeah, so much has been the pharmaceutical industry, the big agriculture,
Correct.
petroleum, of course, all of them entangled have really, I think, crippled us in a lot of ways, right? And it starts with our brain and then it goes all the way through our body and then it goes into our belief system and all of this stuff, and we forget that we have the ability to heal way more than we could. Natural stuff might
Yes.
be slower in some ways, but it is the way that really gets it done. And that you
Yes.
don't have the
Oh,
first thing
absolutely.
is that we have to do is not give up, like you said, you make that decision, you write your own diagnosis on the back, and you focus on that, and you set your script, and you just go, you know
And you go, that's
and you
right.
don't stop.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's awesome. I'm very glad that I found you and was able to have this with you. um we're 1 hour and 3 minutes, and I don't care.
That's good.
So that's awesome. That's awesome. No, that's great. That's actually, I look at that like some people are like, oh my God, you went over an hour, and they're like, oh, you got to have it in a half an hour. And like my stance is this, one of the things that I want to do is to get people to have an attention span again. And I think that a lot of people are
Oh,
starting
Wes.
to have an attention span again. After COVID, a lot of stuff has changed, and people like us are like, yeah, Instagram's great, little 1 minute snippets, but it also lends itself to keeping us confused and off balance. So I'm more than
Yes.
happy to have
And
an
they
hour,
say
three
now that
minutes.
that's right. And they actually have said that the average attention span now, I think, is you've got 3 seconds to get someone's attention.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm
That's
sorry,
how
but
much
3
they've
seconds. If you,
controlled and
yeah,
manipulated us. Oh,
yeah, yep, yep. So absolutely fantastic. I'm so glad and thank you for coming on. Um, any other links,
for having
just
me.
send them. Well, hang on for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe. And all the links will